Hi, everyone. It's Leslie Flowers, Trailblazer for Women in Business. And this is Awakening Your Infinite Potential Telesummit. And boy, am I excited to introduce Cindy Van Arnhem to you today. She is an amazing speaker. She's actually a highly sought after accountability coach, and she's a kick you in the butt speaker. Well, that's her term. She delivers her programs live and virtually on topics of conquering overwhelm, simple systems, and getting things done. Being extremely passionate about empowering solopreneurs to get things done and give them the tools they need to conquer overwhelm, Cindy doesn't show up and tell them what to do. She offers up easily implementable systems and shares her tools that she uses in her own business, and also offers a full year accountability program to further support solopreneurs in their business growth. She's full of fire and passion and has a lasting impact with audiences that continue to support her long after the speech is over. She shoots straight from the hip and uses tools and systems that can be implemented in the room. Cindy actually has the ability to inspire an audience and get them fired up to take action, the key quality. Due to her strong belief that being in business doesn't need to be so hard, she's created a strong community around well-balanced solopreneurship. Cindy today resides in Penticton in the southern part of Okanagan Valley in British Columbia. She has 2 fur babies, and when not speaking, she's traveling, reading every book she can get her hands on, and focuses on creating the life of freedom she dreamed of as a child. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to hear from you. You know, this is Awakening Your Infinite Potential. And as a speaker and an accountability process person, I'm really interested for you to share with our listeners, what was your awakening moment that led you to your infinite potential that you're experiencing right now?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have to go back to my childhood for this one. When I was growing up, my father was my biggest cheerleader. And what I heard from him all the time was, you have so much potential. You can do anything you put your mind to. You can do anything you want. And that was what I grew up with. I had a really happy childhood until when I turned 16. My dad was ripped from our lives unexpectedly when he passed away of a heart attack. He was the healthiest man I knew. He was 48 years old, and I was there when he died, so I saw it happen. And in that moment, my life was ripped apart. And I made a decision at that point that I wasn't going to live anymore. I didn't care. And from there, I went into a series of poor decisions. I became a cocaine addict. I had abusive relationships. I had a series of failed businesses, one after the other after the other. I knew, because I had that value ingrained in me, that I had the potential, that I was going to be an entrepreneur, and I tried so hard. But because I had had that belief that, you know, my cheerleader was gone, I couldn't do it. And so I had that belief that it just wasn't going to work, and I just kept failing and failing and failing. And about a year ago, I had a business in place as a virtual assistant, and I was successful, you could say. I had clients, I had money, and it was the 20th anniversary of my father's death. And so our family was all set to get together with a celebration of life and share memories, and I actually helped plan that event. And when it came time to go, I made the decision not to go. I was too overwhelmed. I was in complete chaos. I started making excuses. My clients wouldn't understand why I was taking a weekend off, because apparently I'm supposed to work 24/7. I even had the excuse that my car might break down on the way there, so I couldn't go. It was one thing after the other after the other. And in that moment when my family was all gathered together and I wasn't there, I realized that something was seriously wrong. And I broke down. And what happened was I grabbed my journal and a pen, and I just started writing all the things that were going on in my head, all of my client work, all of my personal stuff, all of the things that were just bouncing around in there with no place to go and nothing, I wasn't doing anything about them. And as I started writing, I felt things starting to clear. And I felt the space opening up in my body, in my brain, in my soul. And 5 pages later of things to do on the task list, I started going through it and I realized that half of that stuff didn't even matter and didn't need to be done. It was just taking up space and keeping me from being activating that potential that I had. And so what I did was I started categorizing things. And I've read a lot of success books in the past, so I kind of took some skills that I'd learned from those, and I started categorizing things. And all of a sudden I realized that there was really only 3 things on that list that needed to be done. And the rest got thrown out. And since that moment, I have transitioned my business 180 degrees. I have become a coach rather than a virtual assistant. I'm no longer chained to my desk. I have zero overwhelm. I have way more time with my family and friends. I have reconnected with all of the family that I missed out on that anniversary. I have the life that I dreamed of.
I mean, and that is so inspiring. And I want to backtrack with you just a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack to the point where you basically gave up and just started journaling. So 2 things. The first thing is what did it feel like when you say the space started opening up, your physical, your internal space? That, and then what was the very next thing you did toward your business or your family? What was the first step or 2 that you took? So take us back to, what is that like when you're journaling? And I do know what you're talking about because I journal too. So for those who don't journal, this may give you some insight or something to be looking for, some sort of awakening as you do journal. So can you describe to us what that feeling was like?
Yeah, and I mean, when I sat down, I was in tears. I was just like snot bubbles. It was ugly cry. It wasn't pretty. And when I sat down, I just felt so heavy and so broken. There was nothing left in my soul. And I knew I had to do something about it. So when I just started writing, and it was almost like I had no control over my pen. It was almost like I was being guided by somebody or something else to just write all the things. And I wouldn't even really say it was journaling. It was more of a literal brain dump of everything that was going on in my head. And all of a sudden things just felt lighter. And yeah, like it was almost like I was floating, and the tears stopped. And at the end, I was almost giggling, almost hysterically giggling, because I felt so giddy that there was this space. I had room to breathe.
What happened next?
Then I realized that none of that stuff mattered. Half the things that were in my head didn't matter. And so I started taking the things that did matter and started prioritizing them.
So you did that, and then you shifted from being a VA to a coach. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because was it in the process that you experienced that had you realize that? Why a coach? Why not continue with a VA? What was it about what you could do for people?
Because
that was inspired in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Because being a virtual assistant was not my ultimate potential. I'm good at being a virtual assistant. I'm good at the technology, but that's not where I shine. I shine when I can support people in getting stuff done and holding them accountable so that when someone sets an intention, they actually get to that intention. And that's where I shine, and supporting people and helping people. And when I was a virtual assistant, I was all about the money. That's all I cared about, was making money and an hourly rate and doing the work, and that's how I got paid. And now I would rather support someone and help them, and the money flows to me that way, just because that's just the way the universe works. I don't focus on the money now. I focus on helping people.
I love that. And so when people download your handout, what are they going to be doing with that handout? Is that going to help them break through whatever it is or become awakened to their own infinite potential as a first and second step?
You betcha. And it is a very simple first and second step. So it's just a 3-page document. The first page describes what I call a creativity cleanse. And it's just a simple ritual that you go through, and you walk away from your screens. Don't type this out. There's something about actually handwriting that's that cognitive to physical thing that you do. So you literally dump all the things in your brain on a piece of paper. And that's the first process. And it's a bit of a ritual to set up. And I walk you through step by step on how to do that. Very simple steps. And then the second piece is actually prioritizing all those things. So there's 4 quadrants that I've based off of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but his are kind of dull and boring, so I made them more fun, because that's who I am, more fun. And you literally just prioritize those tasks in those different quadrants. So there is the magic maker quadrant, where you should be spending 80% of your time. There is the sanity saver quadrant, which should be systematized, outsourced, or automated. There is the 911 quadrant, which once you do this tactic over and over and over again and make it a habit, that 911 quadrant becomes non-existent. And then there's the stop doing it quadrant, and that's, just don't do it at all. Like, scroll through Facebook thinking you're working, or, a whole day of Netflix binging.
Well, okay, but looking back at Covey's quadrants, I mean, we do need to remain balanced, and I do believe a few binge watching series is healthy for the soul.
Absolutely, and I'm a huge advocate for a Netflix binge, but there's a time and a place for it. And if you schedule it in, then it becomes part of your personal time, rather than taking over your marketing or your family time or whatever's important to you.
Well, that makes sense, because you're all about accountability and the process of reducing overwhelm. So that makes perfect sense. So tell us, who is it that you love to help the most, Cindy?
I'm all about my spiritual woo-woo coaches, my life coaches, my authors, my speakers. Definitely. I tend to work most with women, but I love men too, so they're definitely welcome.
I love that. I love that. So if there was one thing that you would share with our listeners about, you were in a pretty deep and dark place. Losing a parent at a young age has to be hard. I don't know what it's like, right? I can't imagine what it's like. But if there's one thing that you could tell the listeners that may have experienced something as devastating as this, to manage through, what would that advice be?
Ask for help. You can't do it by yourself. I tried to do it alone for a long time, because that's just who I am. I'm Miss Independent, and it didn't work. Ask for help. Reach out for support, whatever that might look like for you, whether it be a coach or traditional therapy, whatever it might be, just get some help.
Yeah. I got it. That is awesome. Well, tell us how we can reach you. Now, we're going to get your handout, so everyone's going to download your handout so that we can begin, right, your process, which I love. Yeah. And then if we wanted to reach out to you right now, what would be the best way?
You can find me on Facebook. My Facebook page is just facebook.com/Cindy Van Arnhem. And I know my name can be a little difficult to spell, so maybe we can put that somewhere.
Well, it'll be on your page.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
In big letters.
Perfect. So yeah, Facebook is the easiest place to find me, or my website, cindyvanarnhem.com.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Cindy, you have given us a great bunch of advice here. What I especially love is the fact that you were able to describe that feeling of moving from heavy to light.
Mm.
I don't know about you and the listeners, but I certainly can understand and empathize with that feeling. And going from, really in a serious spiral all the way to giddiness.
That's really what it was. I wanted to go like frolic in the meadow afterwards.
And what a difference it is, that awakening,
Mm.
right? It's such a different mindset. And this is what we want people to understand, is that you have your own unique things to do.
Absolutely.
And Cindy's process is one way to jumpstart you toward that process, right, Cindy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It makes space for what you really want.
Exactly. Any last words for our listeners?
And my only advice is to just use the process and make it a habit. I do one of these creativity cleanses every week. I make it part of my ritual on Sundays to just do it. And then it helps me plan out my week, and it prioritizes what needs to happen that week. And it keeps overwhelm from existing in my life completely.
So am I hearing that you're doing this each week,
Yes.
and that there are different things that come out each week? Like, so you're not going to have the same noise or nonsense in your head one week to the next. It's going to be different new stuff.
Uh-huh.
So this is like something that you do each week to prepare for the week.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I love this. I'm going to download this one.
It's a fantastic little, yeah, I really love it, and it's become part of my weekly ritual.
Well, it's sheer genius. And I think that infinite potential is that stroke of genius that we know about ourselves. And that's why you were giddy. Because
Absolutely.
you went from the absolute lowest to the epitome of infinite potential in a matter of 5 pages.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is amazing and significant.
Yes.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for being on the Telesummit and sharing the awakening of your infinite potential and your service to help others reach theirs. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Thanks, everyone. See you over at the next speaker venue. Bye.